Minash-shaytanir-rajim. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. وَتَعِزُّ مَن تَشَاءُ وَتَذِلُّ مَن تَشَاءُ بِيَدِكَ الْخَيْرُ إِنَّكَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who gives you this respect, and He's the only one who give you respect, and He can take it away from you at any time He wants. Having said that, my dear fellow countrymen, this is John Shike coming live from Waa TV Houston, and your local, only one local Desi channel in Houston, Texas. Today I am going to bring a special program in reference to the speech which most recently was made by the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu in the House of Congress. Ladies and gentlemen, we are American. Our first interest is the safety and protection of America. We want America to grow, and we still want America to be a free and best country in the world. Let's put it this way. I think America is the best country in the world to live. I think America is a country where you would love to raise, and it's very good to raise your children, still having with all anti-Muslim sentiments which are going on in these days in the society. I'd like to bring you first a bad, sad, whatever you want to call it, news. Most recently in Dallas, Texas, a Iraqi national who just arrived in the United States searching for a dream home and a freedom. He was shot because he was making a picture of a snow. Who shot him? I don't know. I'm sure the Dallas Police Department is looking into. But I want to say something. By having murders and killings and rapes every day in this country, according to the FBI, every few seconds there's a crime happen in this country, some sort of crime, rape, murder, or assault, or wife beating, or whatever, every few seconds. By saying that or having that kind of crime in this country, are we going to call America a terrorist nation or terrorist country? No, we won't. We can't. And we will not. But if anything happened in the Muslim world, we could say, Muslim terrorist. Why? Why this double standard? Now, this bothers me a little bit. Or sometimes bothers me very much. I ain't by religion, I'm a Muslim, but I'm a conservative. I love America. It's the greatest country to live. And I want every terrorist to be killed. I don't care which country, what nationality, what religion. I do not believe on any kind of terrorism. Verbal, violent, anyway, I do not believe on that. Or in writing, no, that's wrong. God created us to live free, to love each other. And I think we should love each other. Having said that, no. Like I said, in America, FBI said every few seconds there's some sort of crime, burglary, car theft, rape, murder, assault, wife beating, another thing, different type of crime. Every few seconds in America, somebody is stabbed or murdered or raped or whatever, gang raped. So that call America a terrorist nation? No, we won't, like I said earlier, because few dirty apples, few bad apples, we can't call a nation of 360 million people a terrorist nation. But then why? 180 million Pakistanis are Muslims, because few dirty apples, bad apples in there, few bad sheeps in there, we call them the terrorist. And we are not trusting them. Folks, let me tell you something here. A few years ago, before the Musharraf's government, before the Nawaz's first government, Pakistan passport, you can travel anywhere in the world, in many countries in the world without visa. England without visa, many European countries without visa, and Japan without visa, many countries without visa. Now you cannot even go to Sri Lanka without taking a visa. You are able to travel on Pakistan passport anywhere, even in Greece, on any country in your Turkey, Iran. Now even Iran and Turkey, we have to get a visa. After though they are member of RDMC or RDC, whatever the UPAN set it up. Now, having said that, now I want you to see why. What our government did to our people, what our government did to our country. Where we have people like Nawaz Sharif as the Prime Minister of Pakistan. This was expected. This is going to happen. The man is too busy to fill up his bank, to make a big bank balance, his buddies or his, should I say, hello sir ji, ki haal hai? Aaj makhan khaoge, chalai khaoge, what do you want to eat, sir? Those type of people making their big bank balance. That's not right. It's okay to make a mega plan. There's nothing wrong, but where's the electricity? Why there's not electricity in Pakistan? So all these things of our country look bad. No, because of these things, because of these bad governments, particularly in the Arab world, they have more money than anywhere in the world. But where's their money? Their money is invested right in New York and America. I would say I shouldn't say New York, America and Britain and certain other European country. Their money, all their wealth is invested here and is kept here. Because the day they're going to throw the government, just like they freeze Iran's assets, they will freeze their assets and they're gone. So that made us thief. Should we call we Americans a thief? No, we can't, we won't. Because what we'll do in the name of security? Run away. Name of security. We have a homeland, Naval Protection Security of America. There's nothing wrong. We have to protect our country. We have to protect our citizens. But bringing Netanyahu in front of a joint House session and speaking a radical speech against Iran, I have no love lost for Iran. I don't give a damn about Iran. I don't care about Iran. But I want you to think about it. He's using their more Jews, less more than this that was killed. Jews were killed in Nazi war when the Nazi killed them, have been killed in the hand of this, blah, 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 blah. He's talking about different things. So, fellow countrymen, just think. He's saying we cannot allow Iran to be nuclear power. Now, I don't want to argue there because I'm not a government official. I don't know. He said the security and safety of Israel will be threatened. What about safety and security of the Muslim countries is threatened by Israel? If Israel wants Iran not to make a nuclear weapon, then Israel should give up their nuclear weapons. We, as Americans, have a very bad economy right now. It's getting better, but a very bad economy. Yet we need to give Israel the money at the first of the year. We don't have the money, we go borrow money, give it to them. They lose one plane, we give them the gift from American taxpayer, another one. Even Netanyahu, listen to his speech. You're going to listen right after I talk. His speech, he said, we're grateful to America. They give us missile technology and this, we're giving them everything. Can you trust Jews? Can anybody trust Jews? I'm not saying that they try to kill Prophet Muhammad or they have conspiracies against Muslims all the time, but they are good Jews also. They are good Muslims, they are good bad Jews and bad Muslims and bad Christians. This is in every religion, in every culture. Jews were left by the God once and then he said, no, they are condemned people. And what Allah said in Quran, فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ? He had given us so much is unbelievable, and then who become his favorite nation? Just think. Read Quran and you will understand what I'm trying to say. Read an English Quran and you will understand. Now, bringing Netanyahu in a Congress to embarrass President of the United States because he's trying to make a deal with Iran, I don't think this is right. He is the elected President of the United States. No, I have no love lost with Obama. I may not like him or something. That's my opinion as an American, but he's still my president. Embarrassing president are trying to stop him. Why a conservative of falsifying something, telling people that Iran having a nuclear weapon would be the biggest threat to Israel. This same thing was said about Pakistan. With the Pakistan's nuclear weapon a threat to Israel? Come on, Netanyahu. Get lost, man. What you talking about? You mean no other country can protect themselves? No other country should be protect themselves from aggression of Israel when you guys go and you get in the house of the people, pick up the children sleeping and rape and kill anybody anywhere you want. And I remember one time it was broadcasted that the husband was taking wife to the hospital and she was pregnant, she was having a baby, and you guys put a there and put a bullet in the stomach of the lady and kill the kid, and her say another terrorist was going to born. We just stopped. That's your army. You basically, Israel army, basically, many people in the country world believe they are terrorist army. Many people in the world believe Israel is a country of a terrorist because that's how they feel. Why? Because you don't want to sit down in a peace. Do whatever you have to do to bring a peace in the Middle East. You worry from Hezbollah, you worry for this. I'm not worried for Hezbollah or Qaeda or anybody. I don't give a damn to them. And in all Pakistan, there's a terrorist party called MQM. Muttahida Muhajir Qawmi movement. Muttahida Qawmi movement, then they become Muhajir movement. They have Muhajir movement, they become Qawmi movement. A terrorist, a man who's a terrorist, known terrorist, murderer. He ran the party from England. Who gave him political asylum? Britain. Why? There's a case, he's sitting there in England threatening people. His people right here in Houston, on Hillcroft and other areas, sitting on the cheap place on Hillcroft close to Sheikh Chilli. It's unbelievable. Threatening people. All criminals on that little shack where they play pool, the chess, that garbage place. No respectable person, no family want to go there because that's a garbage place. They're sitting there threatening people. You didn't do nothing about them. Yes, on the United States immigration's homepage, they have said MQMs, which people who stand with Altaf Hussain are terrorists. They declare him a terrorist, his party a terrorist. You declare him and his party terrorist, then why don't you kick those people out from this country? Why you have MQM? They are a big threat to the peace, here and in Pakistan. Many of us are afraid. We see them, we move our way because they are nothing than garbage. Majority of them, not all, majority of them. Same thing with radio stations, same thing everything. They represent somebody else's culture. So what? Who is the blame? Netanyahu's speech, who's to blame? Our radio stations, our media, our countries, what? Why the king of Saudi Arabia, who's so big kingdom, he's too busy pouring money in Pakistan with anti-Sunnism to increase Wahhabism in Pakistan? This is ridiculous. They're killing Shias and others in the left and right. Whose blessing is on that? We need to stop that. King of Saudi Arabia need to bring a democracy in their country. Let the woman drive. Let the woman work. Let the woman choose their own husband they want to marry. This is ridiculous. You want to marry in Saudi Arabia, you Muslim, even whatever, you from other country, get a permission from the government first. Oh, ridiculous, man. You mean women don't have a choice to marry his or her man or woman, their own choice, his or her, whatever, whoever they want to marry? Ridiculous. Same thing in many Muslim countries. Now they're saying ISIS, we want to finish that. They are a threat to Israel, they are a threat to America. But who created ISIS? Folks, we created ISIS. For what? To bring down the Syrian government. Now, they got stuck in our neck because we give them too much ammunition. We got the same thing, Al-Qaeda. Who brought Al-Qaeda? Who funded Mujahideen to overthrow Russians? America, with the help of Pakistan. America was always superpower, but never sole superpower. Like I said, we, the Pakistanis, Americans, we made America a sole superpower with the help of their own weapons by Mujahideen. And now we have millions of wanis as garbage in our borders. And our own economy is shattered by helping the United States. We have a prime minister sitting there who's waiting 2 hours to take a picture because his buddy arrives. He don't give a damn about there. And the cricket team is the most crooked. They didn't want to have a Sarfaraz play. Now you see Sarfaraz played against South America. Sorry, Maafi Chahta, I apologize. South Africa, and what is the result? Pakistan cricket team won. And number 3 right now. And they got 6 points. And if they beat Ireland, then of course there's going to be in the scores because they're winning with very low scores. So folks, what it is, the corruption not only in games, in the government, in education, and everything, corruption, corruption, corruption. And that is the corruption everywhere, not only in Pakistan, it's in America too. So what happened? The corrupt politicians brought Netanyahu to convince the American people that dealing with Iran is a dangerous thing and it will hurt the safety of Israel, security of Israel, and to look President of the United States bad. That's not, hey, listen to me, Mr. Netanyahu. You go back to the country which we created for you. Go hide your butt over there. Leave us Americans alone. America is our country. Mr. Obama is our president. We have our own Congress, and those chaos who are helping you, I'll tell them, get lost. American people need to take things in their own hands. On election day, you need to elect right people, not the people who do kiss asses to other people. No, this is the greatest country in the world. America is one of the greatest nations in the world. I want to keep it that way. The only way we can keep it, to keep Netanyahu to have a garbage out of our sight. I don't mind too supporting Israel. Fine, support, but at the same token, we should not allow them to kill children. They can walk into anybody's home middle of the night. They can rape any girl. They can shoot anybody in the name of security. Oh my, they're terrorists. Who was hunting for terrorists? 90.99% or 99.99%. No investigation conducted after a Palestinian is killed. No, I am not in favor of Palestine. I'm not in favor of anything because they don't stand behind Kashmir. I'm a Kashmiri American. They never came on the street for Kashmir. We always stand up with them. That's another issue we need to think about it. What problem we have with Israel? We don't have no direct problem. Our major problem is religion, because they were anti-Prophet Muhammad and they cannot be trusted. Now, Palestinians, anytime they have marched, they ask if we always go there and stand Palestinian support as a Muslim. But have they ever came supporting Pakistan? Kashmir's cause? No. They stand with India. Think about it what I said. Now let's sit down and watch this film or this speech and tell me what do you think, and I'll be right back.
Members of Congress, I have the high privilege and distinct honor of presenting to you the Prime Minister of Israel, His Excellency Benjamin Netanyahu. Speaker of the House, John Boehner, President Pro Tem, Senator Orrin Hatch, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell,
House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi and House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy. I also want to acknowledge Senator Democratic Leader Harry Reid. Harry, it's good to see you back on your feet. I guess it's true what they say, you can't keep a good man down. My friends, I'm deeply humbled by the opportunity to speak for a third time before the most important legislative body in the world, the U.S. Congress. I want to thank you all for being here today. I know that my speech has been the subject of much controversy. I deeply regret that some perceive my being here as political. That was never my intention. I want to thank you, Democrats and Republicans, for your common support for Israel, year after year, decade after decade. I know that no matter on which side of the aisle you sit, you stand with Israel. The remarkable alliance between Israel and the United States has always been above politics. It must always remain above politics. Because America and Israel, we share a common destiny. The destiny of promised lands that cherish freedom and offer hope. Israel is grateful for the support of America's people, and of America's presidents, from Harry Truman to Barack Obama. We appreciate all that President Obama has done for Israel. Now, some of that is widely known. Some of that is widely known, like strengthening security cooperation and intelligence sharing, opposing anti-Israel resolutions at the UN. Some of what the president has done for Israel is less well known. I called him in 2010 when we had the Carmel forest fire, and he immediately agreed to respond to my request for urgent aid. In 2011, we had our embassy in Cairo under siege, and again, he provided vital assistance at the crucial moments. Or his support for more missile interceptors during our operation last summer when we took on Hamas terrorists. In each of those moments, I called the president, and he was there. And some of what the president has done for Israel might never be known, because it touches on some of the most sensitive and strategic issues that arise between an American president and an Israeli prime minister. But I know it, and I will always be grateful to President Obama for that support. And Israel is grateful to you, the American Congress, for your support, for supporting us in so many ways, especially in generous military assistance and missile defense, including Iron Dome. Last summer, millions of Israelis were protected from thousands of Hamas rockets because this Capitol Dome helped build our Iron Dome. Thank you, America. Thank you for everything you've done for Israel. My friends, I've come here today because as Prime Minister of Israel, I feel a profound obligation to speak to you about an issue that could well threaten the survival of my country and the future of my people. Iran's quest for nuclear weapons. We're an ancient people. In our nearly 4,000 years of history, many have tried repeatedly to destroy the Jewish people. Tomorrow night, on the Jewish holiday of Purim, we'll read the book of Esther. We'll read of a powerful Persian viceroy named Haman, who plotted to destroy the Jewish people some 2,500 years ago. But a courageous Jewish woman, Queen Esther, exposed the plot and gained for the Jewish people the right to defend themselves against their enemies. The plot was foiled. Our people were saved. Today, the Jewish people face another attempt by yet another Persian potentate to destroy us. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, spews the oldest hatred of anti-Semitism with the newest technology. He tweets that Israel must be annihilated. He tweets. In Iran, there isn't exactly free internet. But he tweets in English that Israel must be destroyed. For those who believe that Iran threatens the Jewish state, but not the Jewish people, listen to Hassan Nasrallah, the leader of Hezbollah, Iran's chief terrorist proxy. He said, if all the Jews gather in Israel, it will save us the trouble of chasing them down around the world. But Iran's regime is not merely a Jewish problem, any more than the Nazi regime was merely a Jewish problem. The 6 million Jews murdered by the Nazis were but a fraction of the 60 million people killed in World War II. So too, Iran's regime poses a grave threat not only to Israel, but also to the peace of the entire world. To understand just how dangerous Iran would be with nuclear weapons, we must fully understand the nature of the regime. The people of Iran are very talented people. They're heirs to one of the world's great civilizations. But in 1979, they were hijacked by religious zealots who imposed on them immediately a dark and brutal dictatorship. That year, the zealots drafted a constitution, a new one for Iran. It directed the Revolutionary Guards not only to protect Iran's borders, but also to fulfill the ideological mission of jihad. The regime's founder, Ayatollah Khomeini, exhorted his followers to export the revolution throughout the world. I'm standing here in Washington, D.C., and the difference is so stark. America's founding document promises life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Iran's founding document pledges death, tyranny, and the pursuit of jihad. And as states are collapsing across the Middle East, Iran is charging into the void to do just that. Iran's goons in Gaza, its lackeys in Lebanon, its revolutionary guards on the Golan Heights are clutching Israel with three tentacles of terror. Backed by Iran, Assad is slaughtering Syrians. Backed by Iran, Shiite militias are rampaging through Iraq. Backed by Iran, Houthis are seizing control of Yemen, threatening the strategic straits at the mouth of the Red Sea. Along with the Straits of Hormuz, that would give Iran a second choke point on the world's oil supply. Just last week, near Hormuz, Iran carried out a military exercise, blowing up a mock U.S. aircraft carrier. That's just last week, while they're having nuclear talks with the United States. But unfortunately, for the last 36 years, Iran's attacks against the United States have been anything but mock, and the targets have been all too real. Iran took dozens of Americans hostage in Tehran, murdered hundreds of American soldiers, Marines in Beirut, and was responsible for killing and maiming thousands of American servicemen and women in Iraq and Afghanistan. Beyond the Middle East, Iran attacks America and its allies through its global terror network. It blew up the Jewish Community Center and the Israeli embassy in Buenos Aires. It helped Al-Qaeda bomb U.S. embassies in Africa. It even attempted to assassinate the Saudi ambassador right here in Washington, D.C. In the Middle East, Iran now dominates 4 Arab capitals: Baghdad, Damascus, Beirut, and Sana'a. And if Iran's aggression is left unchecked, more will surely follow. So at a time when many hope that Iran will join the community of nations, Iran is busy gobbling up the nations. We must all stand together to stop Iran's march of conquest, subjugation, and terror. Now, 2 years ago, we were told to give President Rouhani and Foreign Minister Zarif a chance to bring change and moderation to Iran. Some change, some moderation. Rouhani's government hangs gays, persecutes Christians, jails journalists, and executes even more prisoners than before. Last year, the same Zarif who charms Western diplomats laid a wreath at the grave of Imad Murnia. Imad Murnia is the terrorist mastermind who spilled more American blood than any other terrorist besides Osama bin Laden. I'd like to see someone ask him a question about that. Iran's regime is as radical as ever. Its cries of death to America, that same America that it calls the Great Satan, as loud as ever. Now, this shouldn't be surprising, because the ideology of Iran's revolutionary regime is deeply rooted in militant Islam. And that's why this regime will always be an enemy of America. And don't be fooled. The battle between Iran and ISIS doesn't turn Iran into a friend of America. Iran and ISIS are competing for the crown of militant Islam. One calls itself the Islamic Republic. The other calls itself the Islamic State. Both want to impose a militant Islamic empire, first on the region and then on the entire world. They just disagree among themselves who will be the ruler of that empire. In this deadly Game of Thrones, there's no place for America or for Israel. No peace for Christians, Jews, or Muslims who don't share the Islamist medieval creed. No rights for women, no freedom for anyone. So when it comes to Iran and ISIS, the enemy of your enemy is your enemy. The difference is that ISIS is armed with butcher knives, captured weapons, and U-2, whereas Iran could soon be armed with intercontinental ballistic missiles and nuclear bombs. We must always remember, I'll say it one more time, the greatest danger facing our world is the marriage of militant Islam with nuclear weapons. To defeat ISIS and let Iran get nuclear weapons would be to win the battle but lose the war. We can't let that happen. But that, my friends, is exactly what could happen if the deal now being negotiated is accepted by Iran. That deal will not prevent Iran from developing nuclear weapons. It would all but guarantee that Iran gets those weapons, lots of them. Let me explain why. While the final deal has not yet been signed, certain elements of any potential deal are now a matter of public record. You don't need intelligence agencies and secret information to know this. You can Google it. Absent a dramatic change, we know for sure that any deal with Iran will include two major concessions to Iran. The first major concession would leave Iran with a vast nuclear infrastructure, providing it with a short breakout time to the bomb. Breakout time is the time it takes to amass enough weapons-grade uranium or plutonium for a nuclear bomb. According to the deal, not a single nuclear facility would be demolished. Thousands of centrifuges used to enrich uranium would be left spinning. Thousands more would be temporarily disconnected, but not destroyed. Because Iran's nuclear program would be left largely intact, Iran's breakout time would be very short, about a year by U.S. assessment, even shorter by Israel. And if Iran's work on advanced centrifuges, faster and faster centrifuges, is not stopped, that breakout time could still be shorter, a lot shorter. True, certain restrictions would be imposed on Iran's nuclear program, and Iran's adherence to those restrictions would be supervised by international inspectors. But here's the problem. See, inspectors document violations. They don't stop them. Inspectors knew when North Korea broke to the bomb, but that didn't stop anything. North Korea turned off the cameras, kicked out the inspectors. Within a few years, it got the bomb. Now we're warned that within 5 years, North Korea could have an arsenal of 100 nuclear bombs. Like North Korea, Iran too has defied international inspectors. It's done that on at least 3 separate occasions: 2005, 2006, 2010. Like North Korea, Iran broke the locks, shut off the cameras. Now I know this is not going to come as a shock to any of you, but Iran not only defies inspectors, it also plays a pretty good game of hide and cheat with them. The UN's nuclear watchdog agency, the IAEA, said again yesterday that Iran still refuses to come clean about its military nuclear program. Iran was also caught twice, not once, twice, operating secret nuclear facilities in Natanz and Qom, facilities that inspectors didn't even know existed. Right now, Iran could be hiding nuclear facilities that we don't know about, the U.S. and Israel. As the former head of inspections for the IAEA said in 2013, he said, if there's no undeclared installation today in Iran, it'll be the first time in 20 years that it doesn't have one. Iran has proven time and again that it cannot be trusted. And that's why the first major concession is a source of grave concern. It leaves Iran with a vast nuclear infrastructure and relies on inspectors to prevent a breakout. That concession creates a real danger that Iran could get to the bomb by violating the deal. But the second major concession creates an even greater danger, that Iran could get to the bomb by keeping the deal. Because virtually all the restrictions on Iran's nuclear program will automatically expire in about a decade. Now, a decade may seem like a long time in political life, but it's the blink of an eye in the life of a nation. It's a blink of an eye in the life of our children. We all have a responsibility to consider what will happen when Iran's nuclear capabilities are virtually unrestricted and all the sanctions will have been lifted. Iran would then be free to build a huge nuclear capacity that could produce many, many nuclear bombs. Iran's supreme leader says that openly. He says Iran plans to have 190,000 centrifuges. Well, Iran could have the means to deliver that nuclear arsenal to the far-reach corners of the earth, including to every part of the United States. So you see, my friends, this deal has two major concessions. One, leaving Iran with a vast nuclear program. And two, lifting the restrictions on that program in about a decade. That's why this deal is so bad. It doesn't block Iran's path to the bomb. It paves Iran's path to the bomb. So why would anyone make this deal? Because they hope that Iran will change for the better in the coming years? Or they believe that the alternative to this deal is worse? Well, I disagree. I don't believe that Iran's radical regime will change for the better after this deal. This regime has been in power for 36 years, and its voracious appetite for aggression grows with each passing year. This deal would only whet Iran's appetite for more. Would Iran be less aggressive when sanctions are removed and its economy is stronger? If Iran is gobbling up 4 countries right now while it's under sanctions, how many more countries will Iran devour when sanctions are lifted? Would Iran fund less terrorism when it has mountains of cash with which to fund more terrorism? Why should Iran's radical regime change for the better when it can enjoy the best of both worlds? Aggression abroad, prosperity at home. This is a question that everyone asks in our region. Israel's neighbors, Iran's neighbors, know that Iran will become even more aggressive and sponsor even more terrorism when its economy is unshackled and it's been given a clear path to the bomb. And many of these neighbors say they'll respond by racing to get nuclear weapons of their own. So this deal won't change Iran for the better. It will only change the Middle East for the worse. A deal that's supposed to prevent nuclear proliferation would instead spark a nuclear arms race in the most dangerous part of the planet. This deal won't be a farewell to arms. It would be a farewell to arms control. And the Middle East would soon be crisscrossed by nuclear tripwires. A region where small skirmishes can trigger big wars would turn into a nuclear tinderbox. If anyone thinks this deal kicks the can down the road, think again. When we get down that road, we'll face a much more dangerous Iran, a Middle East littered with nuclear bombs, and a countdown to a potential nuclear nightmare. Ladies and gentlemen, I've come here today to tell you we don't have to bet the security of the world on the hope that Iran will change for the better. We don't have to gamble with our future and with our children's future. We can insist that restrictions on Iran's nuclear program not be lifted for as long as Iran continues its aggression in the region and in the world. before lifting those restrictions, the world should demand that Iran do three things. First, stop its aggression against its neighbors in the Middle East. Second, stop supporting terrorism around the world. And third, stop threatening to annihilate my country, Israel, the one and only Jewish state. If the world powers are not prepared to insist that Iran change its behavior before a deal is signed, at the very least, they should insist that Iran change its behavior before a deal expires. If Iran changes its behavior, the restrictions would be lifted. If Iran doesn't change its behavior, the restrictions should not be lifted. If Iran wants to be treated like a normal country, let it act like a normal country. My friends, what about the argument that there is no alternative to this deal? That Iran's nuclear know-how cannot be erased, that its nuclear program is so advanced that the best we can do is delay the inevitable, which is essentially what the proposed deal seeks to do. Well, nuclear know-how without nuclear infrastructure doesn't get you very much. A race car driver without a car can't drive, a pilot without a plane can't fly. Without thousands of centrifuges, tons of enriched uranium, or heavy water facilities, Iran can't make nuclear weapons. Iran's nuclear program can be rolled back well beyond the current proposal by insisting on a better deal and keeping up the pressure on a very vulnerable regime, especially given the recent collapse in the price of oil. Now, if Iran threatens to walk away from the table, and this often happens in a Persian bazaar, call their bluff. They'll be back because they need the deal a lot more than you do. And by maintaining the pressure on Iran and on those who do business with Iran, you have the power to make them need it even more. My friends, for over a year, we've been told that no deal is better than a bad deal. Well, this is a bad deal. It's a very bad deal. We're better off without it. Now we're being told that the only alternative to this bad deal is war. That's just not true. The alternative to this bad deal is a much better deal. better deal that doesn't leave Iran with a vast nuclear infrastructure and such a short breakout time. A better deal that keeps the restrictions on Iran's nuclear program in place until Iran's aggression ends. Between two paths. One path leads to a bad deal that will at best curtail Iran's nuclear ambitions for a while. But it will inexorably lead to a nuclear-armed Iran whose unbridled aggression will inevitably lead to war. The second path, however difficult, could lead to a much better deal that would prevent a nuclear-armed Iran, a nuclearized Middle East, and the horrific consequences of both to all of humanity. You don't have to read Robert Frost to know how to live life. To know that the difficult path is usually the one less traveled. But it will make all the difference for the future of my country, the security of the Middle East, and the peace of the world, the peace we all desire. Friends, standing up to Iran is not easy. Standing up to dark and murderous regimes never is. With us today is Holocaust survivor and Nobel Prize winner, Elie Wiesel. Elie, your life and work inspire us to give meaning to the words, never again. And I wish I could promise you, Elie, that the lessons of history have been learned. I can only urge the leaders of the world not to repeat the mistakes of the past. Not to sacrifice the future for the present. Not to ignore aggression in the hopes of gaining an illusory peace. But I can guarantee you this. The days when the Jewish people remain passive in the face of genocidal enemies, those days are over. We are no longer scattered among the nations, powerless to defend ourselves. We've restored our sovereignty in our ancient home, and the soldiers who defend our home have boundless courage. For the first time in 100 generations, we, the Jewish people, can defend ourselves. This is why, as Prime Minister of Israel, I can promise you one more thing. Even if Israel has to stand alone, Israel will stand. But I know that Israel does not stand alone. I know that America stands with Israel. I know that you stand with Israel. You stand with Israel because you know that the story of Israel is not only the story of the Jewish people, but of the human spirit that refuses again and again to succumb to history's horrors. Facing me, overlooking all of us in this august chamber, is the image of Moses. Moses led our people from slavery to the gates of the promised land. And before the people of Israel entered the land of Israel, Moses gave us a message that has steeled our resolve for thousands of years. I leave you with his message today. Be strong and resolute, neither fear nor dread them. My friends, may Israel and America always stand together, strong and resolute. May we neither fear nor dread the challenges ahead. May we face the future with confidence, strength, and hope. May God bless the state of Israel, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you all. You're wonderful. Thank you, America. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Fellow countrymen, you just saw this little speech I showed Netanyahu. You heard what he said. Now what do you think? He going to tell us Americans what to do? He's trying to embarrass our president because he's dealing with Iran. The president of the United States have a bigger duty, very big duty. He have to protect America any which way he can. If you think he can save billions of dollars, taxpayers' money, which is wasted because of Iran situation, and I'm sure the president understands, his cabinet knows what's right, what's wrong for America. You mean Netanyahu and more love for America than the President of the United States and then his cabinet? Come on, man, come on. Get lost, Netanyahu. Go back to your little island over there before Arab kick your ass. Think about it. He's telling us Americans what to do. He's telling us what's wrong with our country. Do you want to listen? Garbage like Netanyahu, what's wrong with our country? America is a great country. We have the greatest freedom. We have better freedom than even after all these situations. We are still a better country than anywhere in the world to live. Our president is our president. Don't tell us how to deal with our president. And these lousy congressmen and senators who are elected by their constituency need to ask them a question. Don't bring this black and brown thing of Democrat and Republican. Think of America. America first, then something else. Is in the interest of America to deal with Iran or not? Is in the interest of America to deal in Afghanistan and Taliban and Al-Qaeda and Turkey and Iran and Pakistan and Saudi Arabia? Our government knows best. Our president, his cabinet knows best. Then we have check and balance. President always can veto, Congress always can override his veto. Let us run Mr. Netanyahu our country. Don't tell us what's wrong with America, what will happen to America, what will happen to... I could care less what happened to Israel. You are trouble in the world anyway. You know what? If there were no Israel, there will be no terrorism in the world today. And if there were no Kashmir issue and Israeli issue, there will be no terrorism in the world today. We'll be living in peace. Soon we can solve the problem of Kashmir and Palestinians. There will be no problem in the world. Our American dollars will save. President and our Congress need to look into the issues, how we can get a more job for Americans, how we can get more economically strong America. That's what we had to do. Other than listening to this garbage Israel and keep giving them planes and tanks and keep forcing them to become or keep making them a more powerful country. One day, if they turn against us, just like other countries did, then what do you want to do? Think about it. My time is just about up. I'll come back next week with some other issues and different issues and with this different talk. I'll talk to you later. That's all for today. My time is just about up. I'll meet you again with some other issues, some new talk. Until then, God bless America. Allah Hafiz, Pakistan Zindabad.